Welcome to Fair and Square, a weekly program where we square up and square with famous public personalities. Our guest today is one of the finest soldiers of post-independence India, Lieutenant General S.K. Sinha. He was the Western Army Commander and then the Vice-Chief of Army Staff. Later, he was appointed India's ambassador to Nepal and then the Governor of Assam and then the state of Jammu and Kashmir. He is a military historian and thinker par excellence. Welcome to Fair and Square, General Sinha. General, you had a very impressive track record in the army from the very beginning, even when you were in the training academy. Did you come from an army background?
No. My father and grandfather were in the police. My grandfather was the only Indian in British days to have become the chief of police of his province. And after 47, my father followed him. So army was not a career I ever thought I'll be taking on. But in 1942, after the Quit India movement, I decided to join the army.
You come from Bihar, and because of the 1857 mutiny, there is a feeling that the British mistrusted or distrusted the people from Bihar. As a young officer in the British Indian Army, did you at any point of time feel that kind of mistrust or distrust with you?
Yeah, not only the British, even my Indian friends in the academy when I was a cadet sort of pulled my legs. You've come from a non-martial class. And a very good Sikh friend of mine told me that once. So I said, you can't say that, because someone from Bihar made the Sikhs a martial class, and I come from the same place where Guru Gobind Singh was born.
During the partition in 1947, you were serving in the Directorate of Military Operations, the DMO at that point of time. What do you recall of the dispute and the crisis in Kashmir of that time?
There were only 3 Indians who had been inducted. Otherwise, MO was a preserve exclusively of British officers. Even the clerks were all British. The 3 Indians were Manekshaw, Yahya Khan, and I, dealing with internal security. And I had a grandstand view of the partition Holocaust, because the army was extensively used. And we were moving in a mobile headquarters given to us by Mountbatten between Delhi and Lahore in those days. 26th of October 47, we were told that we go to Kashmir tomorrow. The Maharaja has acceded. And the general told me that I, being the only Indian officer, could be sent there. Others were all British, they could not go.
They wanted to maintain some kind of neutrality.
That's right, and I organized the airlift from Safdarjung airport in Delhi to Srinagar airfield.
And this airlift changed the scene altogether?
Completely. Mountbatten wrote about that airlift. In my long experience of war, I have not come across another such massive airlift carried out at such short notice and so successfully. That saved Kashmir.
Yes. Later, General, you played a crucial role in the delineation of the ceasefire line. You were the secretary of the Indian delegation to the United Nations at that point of time. Looking back, do you think it was a mistake on India's part to have actually sought UN intervention on Kashmir?
Entirely. Because it came in our way on 3 occasions. On 14th of November 47, we were prevented from going to Muzaffarabad when we had reached Uri, and we were told instead to go south to Puj, which is a great blunder. The second, we were launched our offensive on 22nd May 1948. And by 1st of June, we had progressed. We had advanced about 12 miles from Uri to a place called Urusa, and our right hook across the Nasrachun Pass had reached Titwal, tantalizingly close to Muzaffarabad.
So it is as close as this.
Yeah, and then the UN Commission had sent a committee to both India and Pakistan. They made a request. Neither side should undertake offensive operations.
So which was the third occasion?
The third occasion was, I would say, on 31st of December, 1948. We agreed to a ceasefire. And the army had not even been given 10 days notice, because we were on the tops at that time, having relieved Poonch, defeated a division of Pakistan Army there in Rajouri sector, having broken through Zojila and linked up with Leh. And if we even had 2 or 3 days notice, there were certain areas on the LOC which we could have
Straightened
captured and straightened out. So that was a disaster.
Now, you seen Kashmir from very close quarters in 1947. Then you commanded a division in the 70s in Kashmir, and later you were the governor in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, as Western Army commander, you saw the Punjab problem from very close quarters. And I remember in the early 80s, you did not let the army get involved in the Mehta Chowk Gurdwara incident. What really happened?
You see, there was a little history before the Mehta Chowk Gurdwara incident. Defense Minister Venkatraman had come to Bhatinda, and I, as Western Army commander, was there to accompany him on his tour. And during the tour, I said, sir, I want to talk to you about the Punjab problem, the Kali problem. And he told me, General, that is a political problem. We don't want our generals to get involved in politics. So I said, yes, you're very right, sir. But apart from being defense minister, you're part of the committee of the cabinet negotiating with the Kalis. And I, as Western Army commander, have certain views which I want to place before you. And of course, it verges on politics, but at a certain level, there is a very thin line dividing strategy and politics.
Yes.
I have 3 reasons why I want to raise this issue with you. Number 1, I'm responsible for the defense of Punjab in event of war with Pakistan.
Right.
And if this problem continues to fester, it may affect my operational plans, because I'll have to look over the shoulder to what is happening inside while fighting Pakistan forces. So I have to plan for that contingency. Reason I have is that I am also responsible for internal security. If the police or civil state government cannot handle the situation, the army will be called in. So I have to be prepared for that contingency. And my third reason is that in my army of 300,000, there are 80,000 Sikh soldiers. This problem may affect their discipline and morale. So he then asked me, what do you want me to do? I said, all that I want you to do is to resolve the problem. And how we do it?
This must have been 1981?
A little before Mehta Chowk. You resolve the problem. As to how you do it is beyond me. He said, you know, it is politics. Then he turned around to me, suppose you were in my shoes, what would you do? So I said, sir, as far as I can see, the Kalis have 3 demands. Number 1, express train
It was to be named the
Golden Temple
Golden Temple
Express.
Express.
What is the problem? This should be done straight away. The second demand is that cigarette shops within 100 yards of the Golden Temple should be moved out. I said, that again is so simple. Shouldn't take us more than a couple of minutes. And the shops which are being moved, give them a generous compensation. And their third request is that Gurbani
Be transmitted
from the Golden Temple. I said, why not? Not only the Sikhs, but I come from Bihar. People in Patna would welcome hearing Gurbani from Golden Temple on the radio. So he said, well, it's all politics. And in politics, you give an inch, you will have to give a yard. Today, these are innocuous things. Tomorrow the demand will come. Declare Amritsar a Vatican city. So I said, I'm like the Vatican. So I said, that demand has not yet come. And when it comes, you can take a decision. And that ended. Then the Mehta Chowk episode took place.
In Mehta Chowk, I think you were asked to get Bhindranwale and his group out of the Gurdwara.
The situation was that Bhindranwala was in Mehta Chowk. He had met Zail Singh, the Home Minister in Delhi, coming from Bombay with 30, 40 rifles with him. No one had done anything. And I was rung up by the Chief Secretary of Punjab, I think Puri was his name.
Yes.
He said, General, Bhindranwala has to be arrested. He is in the Gurudwara. And could you give us a few tanks? So I said, look.
Give you a few tanks?
Okay. I said, it's a very strange request. The army doesn't give its weapons to the police. It uses its weapons itself. And when it is called in aid of the police, we use our weapons. We don't hand over our weapons like this. And tanks, policemen are not trained to use it. So I don't know what you will do with it. And even if you have some ex-servicemen from Armored Corps in the police, they can use it. The problem would arise, what are the repercussions? Then he says, well, we wanted it, but if you can't do it, we'll have to do something. After that, I get a message from Darbara Singh. He was the chief minister. I went to see him. He said, General Saab, my chief secretary has told me that you cannot give us tanks and you have very valid reasons for it, and I agree with you. But do one thing for us. Send the army, arrest Bhindranwala and clear up the place. So I said, sir, the army has no powers of arrest. The police can arrest, the army cannot. And I would advise you to use the police for that. He said, but Bhindranwala has got 30, 40 rifles. So I said, so have you. The armed police, the CRP, use them. And then he said in Punjabi, "Tusi sanu madad nahi karte." Well, I said, I'm very sorry, sir. And our meeting ended. 2 days later, my chief of staff, General Puri, he got a message from Delhi, orders of the Prime Minister. The army has to go in and arrest Bhindranwala, and as a good staff officer, he acted on it, thinking that I'll also do the same. And he passed the orders down the line, and a Gurkha battalion was detailed to go to Mehta Chowk. And I was informed at about 6 in the evening or 5:30 when I had landed. So my immediate reaction was, stop that, cancel that order. And he said, sir, but those are the Prime Minister's orders. I said, yes. So far as you are concerned, you have to carry out my orders. As regards the Prime Minister's orders, I'll deal with the problem myself. So I rang up Venkatraman. And I said, sir, these are the orders. And I've told my people not to take any action till I have my views presented to the Prime Minister.
So how did the Defence Minister react?
He was taken aback. He said, you're not going to carry out Prime Minister's orders. I said, no, sir, I will carry out the Prime Minister's orders. But my submission is that I am an army commander. I should be allowed to present my views before the Prime Minister before she gives a decision. And after hearing my views, she gives a decision, you go, I'll go. The Defence Minister rather reluctantly told me, okay, I'll talk to the Prime Minister. A couple of hours later, I get a message. The army can stand down. The task will be carried out by the state government. I was happy.
So your efforts actually paid off?
Yeah. And in fact, you were the correspondent of Indian Express. And the next morning I saw a headline in the Indian Express that the army commander refuses to send troops to Mehta Chowk Gurdwara. Well, I had not actually refused, but I had made a submission. You're very close to it, but it is not disobedience of orders. It is just presenting my views to this.
General, I believe after the Mehta Chowk Gurdwara incident, you laid down a procedure that if the army has to enter the religious places, they should follow a certain procedure. What was that laid down procedure?
I had worked out that a situation would arise when the army would be called to go to Golden Temple. The police mishandled the Mehta Chowk incident, gave Bhindranwala 24 hours. Bhindranwala came out, there was firing, and about 6-7 people were killed. Bhindranwala was taken to Firozpur jail. And then, suddenly, 2 days later, he was released because they said that he had been arrested for being involved in the assassination of Lala Jagat Narayan, the editor of Punjab Kesari. And then they discovered, after all this tamasha, that there is not enough evidence against him. So he was released and he became a hero. And from there he went to Golden Temple. And a very dear friend of mine, Shabeg Singh, now he had joined Bhindranwala. Shabeg had written to me only a month before that from Golden Temple, a personal letter saying that you're resigning and leaving the army is a personal loss to me. So I said, look, all this is going to spell trouble for us.
You could foresee the trouble brewing.
Yeah, a day will come when the army will be called to go in. So I laid down a standard operating procedure.
Is this laid down procedure in writing?
Yeah, it was, but I don't know whether it's still there. But what I had laid down was that when the army is called out, we would do everything in a very transparent manner. We would invite some eminent Sikh gentlemen from Amritsar to come and witness what we are doing so that wrong reports do not come out. Secondly, I would request TV coverage of the operation so that the people can see what we are doing. I would have a cordon around Golden Temple established so that no one can come out or go in and announce to Bhindranwala and his people, we do not want to enter the temple. That is sacrilege for us as it is for you. You come out, give them time, 24 hours, 48 hours, or even more. And in the meanwhile, cut out electricity to them, water supply, to make things difficult and coerce them. Simultaneously, I said we should have a Sikh officer commanding the operation and the mixture of Sikh and non-Sikh troops. We should get a temporary Gurudwara established outside with the cordon where we should offer prayers. Let the whole thing be resolved peacefully and the army not forced to enter the Gurudwara. If in spite of all that, he doesn't respond and we have to go in, then all troops taking part of the operation should offer prayers at our temporary Gurudwara before going in, ensure that their heads are covered, and take off their shoes, go barefooted. And when you enter, use minimum force and try and get the better of them. This sort of thing, filmed and presented to everyone, would have ensured that no sentiments of the Sikhs would have
General,
gone.
looking back, do you think if this procedure had been followed, damage or the hurt that was caused due to Operation Blue Star could have been prevented?
That's my honest feeling. Sundarji was given the order, do this by first light tomorrow morning, tonight. And his reaction was that I'll do it by day before yesterday. And he went in. And when he found the going tough, he asked for sanction to use tanks, and the sanction was given, and they used tanks, and you know what happened.
But do you think it was a political blunder or was it a military botch-up?
Both. You see, that Sundarji had become over-ambitious. He was a brilliant officer. He was looking for a field marshal's baton. And he was all out to please Indira Gandhi. He even ignored my standard operating procedure which I had laid down for it. But when I was governor in Assam, I'd come to Delhi and I was told that Sundarji was in this referral hospital of the army.
Yes.
We went to the hospital, went to Sundarji's room, and Sundarji couldn't talk and he couldn't write. He could only make gestures. He was looking very morose and he's trying to tell me something by doing this. I couldn't make out. Anyway, I came out. He was doing this to indicate beard, and maybe he's wanting to say something about Blue Star. Well, I don't know what he wanted to say, because a few hours later he died.
General, why do you think the then Congress government and the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in particular supersede you?
You see, one of the reasons was trying to put up my views on the Kali problem in Punjab. The other was the fact that my father and JP had been very good friends. They had studied together in college. I used to call JP uncle. He used to come to our house. So this JP connection was something which was like a red rag to Indira Gandhi. And the third also, I've heard, that in the army, I was a crusader for reorganization of our Defense Command, Chief of Defense Staff, integration of service headquarters with ministry, and the bureaucrats were not very comfortable with it.
Talking of the Chief of Defense Staff, since CDS hasn't happened even today, does it disappoint you?
Very much so. I tell you why. Apart from what I had done, I was governor of Assam, and Arun Singh came to see me and said, General, you have worked on this Chief of Defense Staff problem and reorganization. Can you give me a paper? I said, yes, I'll give you a draft paper. I thought I owed it to the army. I wrote out a draft paper, gave it to him. He accepted it in toto. And the report that he submitted, recommending Chief of Defence Staff and Integration, duly reflected it. It was approved by the group of ministers. I lobbied for it with both Vice-Cheif and Advani, telling them. But they found it difficult to take a decision, particularly when I'm told, this is of course hearsay, that the bureaucrats approached Venkatraman. And Venkatraman had been President of India, he had been Defence Minister, and convinced him that CDS would not be a good thing. The army will become too powerful. And Venkatraman went and met Vice-Cheif and said this. So they hesitated and then said we would build a political consensus on this issue before implementing it. And then Vice-Cheif government fell.
And the political consensus still hasn't been built up even today.
We are stuck there.
When you moved to Jammu and Kashmir, how come your approach kind of floundered in J&K?
I wouldn't say it floundered, it worked. But Delhi had no policy. They couldn't take any decisions other than appeasement. They could do nothing, and they were of no help to me. But in spite of that, for the first 2 years, I had Mufti Muhammad Saeed as Chief Minister. He was communal and anti-national. But somehow, he had been an old congressman. He had strong pulls in Delhi. And we were virtually not even in talking terms. He left, and then Ghulam Nabi Azad became Chief Minister. But surprisingly, in Delhi, Mufti carried more weight than Ghulam Nabi Azad. And ultimately, he pulled the carpet under Ghulam Nabi Azad's feet, and after I had left Kashmir, Ghulam Nabi Azad's government fell.
But General Sinha, a lot of people referring to the Amarnath Shrine
Now I'll
Board
come to
incident,
Amarnath.
they feel that you functioned as a BJP agent.
That was propaganda, and I had to do something to improve facilities for pilgrims. There's nothing communal about it, or BJP about it. In fact, Amarnath was my biggest success story.
But General Sinha, if you were to relive or redo your
I'll do
J&K bit, would you do it the same way or would you do it differently?
Exactly. I had won over the Gujars and Baklawals, who were 20% of the population.
But today, do you see a ray of light in Kashmir?
No, because we have messed up things.
General Sinha, I remember many years ago hearing you in the battles of Panipat and Kurukshetra. It was a 1.5-hour talk and you were not referring to any papers. And I noticed that you still retain that photo memory.
It's God's mercy. It's God's mercy, all that I'll say. I'm carrying on. Today I had a very good game of golf. My memory is still good. I'm 86.
Thank you very much, General Sinha. It was a pleasure talking to you and we hope and pray that you live long.
God bless you.
With that, we end this episode of Fair and Square. We were in conversation with soldier, diplomat, former Governor, Lieutenant General S.K. Sinha. Next week, we meet again with another famous personality. Till then, good luck and goodbye.
खबरों की दुनिया में आइए, हमारे साथ कहीं भी और कभी भी जुड़िए। हम मिलेंगे फेसबुक पर, हम दिखेंगे यूट्यूब पर, हमें फॉलो कीजिए ट्विटर पर। खबरों के साथ बने रहिए रात दिन।